Welcome back to Women for Wealth. So one of the things I want to talk about is how are you supposed to build wealth when you're struggling to meet your monthly bills? That is something that I can definitely relate to. Just 15 short years ago, I had my water cut off due to non-payment. So how did I go from that to where I am today? It's putting a plan in place and executing the plan. So, when I say put a budget together, try to reduce your expenses and increase your income, that is the way to do it. But I understand. My husband and I raised 4 kids. Kids aren't cheap, especially childcare today. So that's what I want to talk about today, navigating childcare costs. So the first thing that I want you to consider when you think about childcare costs is subsidies. There are a lot of government programs and subsidies out there that will help you with your childcare costs. In the United States, we have the Childcare and Development Block Program. But the important part of this program is it provides funding to states to subsidize childcare for low-income families. And I will say, what's considered a low-income family might surprise you. Our kids got low-income free lunches and things like that, well beyond what I thought would be considered for low income. So don't think you don't qualify and you make too much money. Fill out the application and let them reject you because you make too much money. You might be like me, you might be surprised and you might qualify and not think you would. Investigate these programs and make sure if you qualify for assistance that you're receiving this assistance. Childcare costs today are astronomically expensive. My heart goes out to all you moms that are having to navigate childcare and, especially like with me and my husband, we both work full time. How do you deal with days out of school, summer vacation, things like that? It's not easy and sometimes you have to get creative. Another couple things to think about is the Head Start and Early Start program. These programs provide childhood education, help and nutrition services to low-income families. In addition, you can get tax credits. The Child and Dependent Care tax credit can offset some of the costs associated with child care. So for the Head Start program, I would just Google it for your county. There should be something, or just go talk to your local primary principal. Primary school principals should know about this Head Start and Early Start programs. They call it, early 3K or early 4K. Basically, instead of kindergarten starting at 5 years old, you can start your child as early as 3, going to the primary school every day, having teachers assigned, getting the education they need. A lot of times they'll actually feed them a meal, if not at minimum, I think they feed them a snack. So your kid will get educated and get a snack. And then, for you, if your child qualifies, this is a free service to you. And your child qualifies to ride the school bus system. So you don't even have to try to figure out, okay, how do I drop my child off before I have to go to work? And how do I pick my kid up when I don't get off work until later? Well, let them ride the school bus. And a lot of times the school bus, if the school bus would drop your child off and you don't want a latchkey kid, which I completely understand, a lot of schools will have after-school programs. My youngest son went to an after-school program, and I did have to pay some for it, but it was a fraction of what I would have paid to send him to a private daycare or something like that. And they were certified teachers that would help with his homework. So when I picked him up from his after-school program, his homework would already be done. He would have had a teacher help walk him through and explain things if he had questions. So I didn't have to stress and struggle when I got home trying to get dinner done, clothes washed, the bedtime routine and homework. I was able to come home, spend enjoyable time with my son instead of focused on homework. We got to actually do fun things together and spend time, we'd shoot around a horse or something like that. Go swimming. We had an above ground swimming pool. So maybe when I picked him up and we got home, maybe we might go swimming if it was nice and warm. So it gives you the flexibility when you do a program like that to where when you do have time with your child, it's not quite so rigorous. It's not quite so, okay, we got to get this done, this done, this done, move on to the next task. You're able to schedule some fun time, some free time, just kind of, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard? All right, let's do that. Those type of fun activities. Another thing to consider is, does your employer have benefits? A lot of employees are now adding childcare benefits as part of an overall compensation plan. And this is something that I am personally looking into. So some of the ways to do that: Dependent Care Flexibility Spending Account, or an FSA. Now, I do offer FSAs to all my employees. If I do it, I guarantee your job probably does too. These accounts allow you to set aside pre-tax dollars to pay for eligible child care expenses. Again, that's pre-tax dollars. If it's a large employer, a lot of them are starting to do on-site child care. There are subsidies and discounts. One of the things that you can ask your employer, say, hey, do you have a child care cost subsidy? They might not. I don't at this point. Flexible work arrangements, remote work. So this is something that every one of my employees is offered, is remote work. You're able to work from home and eliminate the need for full-time child care. So you're able to get up in the morning, not have to worry about commuting. You don't have to go sit in an office cubicle somewhere. You're able to have a home office where you can have a designated room similar to this. I mean, this is set up as our studio so we can do recording. But something similar to this, would be good for people to use as a home office, so they can, okay, mommy's got to work. I'll come check on you in an hour if the child's old enough. Now, if you've got a small child, you're not going to be able to leave them unattended for an hour. You're going to have them, possibly in the same room, set them up if they're a little baby, set them up in a bounce swing or something where you can visibly see them while you're sitting and working, and that way you don't have to worry about childcare expenses, and you're still able to have your career and you're still able to have your job. I know that post-COVID, a lot of companies got rid of remote work. I was remote work pre-COVID, and so we just continued through COVID and after COVID. I think it is a great way to go with the software we have now. I don't personally see the need for someone to have to commute and drive to an office every day to sit in a cubicle for 11 to 12 hours and then commute home at the end of the day. That is a lot. I did it. I'm an engineer. You're expected to sit in that cubicle 11, 12 hours a day. It takes a toll on your personal life, and there is no work-life balance. When you're expected to have your butt in a chair every day for a certain amount of time, honestly, there were days that you were expected to be there at 7 and you didn't leave until 6 at night. So there were days that I got to work and it was still dark. I got off work and it was already dark again. That's not fun, but I did a lot of those days. So I recommend you find an employer that allows remote work so you don't have to deal with any of that. Flexible hours. See if you can adjust your work to align with your partner's schedule to have him or her help manage your child care without additional cost. So, again, Thomas and I raised 4 kids together. There were times that I had to use PTO because there was a sick child, or sometimes he would have to use PTO because of a sick child. On days that school was out, that other places weren't out. I don't know. I know that the school system in the U.S. has children in class 189 days a year. It did not seem like 189 days a year. It seemed like the school was always out for something. There was one random day that it was like, the kids are going to be out of school on Friday. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, it's going to be a teacher work day, so the teachers have the ability to do their continuing education. I'm like, okay, I understand that, but what are all these parents going to do with all these kids for a day? I was lucky enough, I had options, and actually drug my kid to school and to work with me. You know, I understand that other people couldn't do that. Other moms didn't have that flexibility. So having community resources is important. So you got backup on those days. Some of those are co-op childcare. So they're cooperative childcare where you trade childcare duties with other parents, and it can significantly reduce the cost. So if you're in a situation where these random days where the school's closed for kids, maybe, work with some friends of yours that also have kids and say, okay, this Friday when they're out of school, I'll watch all of them. The next time they're all out of school, you watch all of them. And agree and set the schedules up in advance. And that way you can kind of buffer those days. Nonprofits. There are more and more nonprofits offering what they call a sliding scale fee for childcare. This is, again, an income-based thing, but there are out there. And I guarantee you would be surprised to find out that you qualify. You don't have to make a lot of money to still be able to qualify for a sliding scale fee for childcare. Faith-based programs. So faith-based program would be a church or religious organization that provides affordable childcare services. So Kevin used to go to a church. It was a local church. They offered daycare services. It was half the cost of any other daycares in the area. The lady that was the head of the program had a master's in education. She had one certified teacher in every classroom. And then the helpers a lot of times were not licensed teachers. They were volunteers a lot of times that would volunteer to work so that they wouldn't have to pay daycare for their own child. And that's something else you can do. So talk to your local church. See if they have something. And this one you should already know, budgeting and financial planning. Budget and plan in advance for childcare costs. You need a childcare budget. You need to have a line item on your monthly budget that actually allocates a portion of your income to your childcare expenses, and you need to track this. You need to make sure that what you forecast you're going to spend on childcare is what you actually spend. If you're exceeding that number vastly, then you need to look at some of these other options to be able to bring that number down. Having an emergency savings fund to cover unexpected childcare costs. So I'll be honest with you, I don't think you need a separate emergency savings fund because you've already got 6 to 9 months in your emergency savings fund. I think that should cover any one-off emergencies for childcare. But if you think that childcare is such a burden and you didn't properly budget, then yes, have a separate emergency savings fund just for childcare. Don't be afraid to negotiate and shop around. A lot of times they're willing to work with you if you have affordable payment plans. So if you can say, I can afford this is my income, this is what I can afford, then a lot of times they'll work with you, especially if you go to a nonprofit organization that has a sliding scale. Most of the time they will work with you. Or if you go to a faith-based program like a local church and you say, look, I need childcare help. This is my income, this is my budget, this is what I can afford to spend every month. A lot of times they will work with you and agree to go with the number you have a lot of times. Just as always with negotiation, just always be respectful. Have the number you feel confident in that you can make happen, and then have the secondary number of, if it's above this, I just got to walk away. I got to say thank you, I appreciate it, I can't afford that, I've got to keep looking. So know what that number is based on your particular situation. Compare providers, shop around a little bit and do a decision tree. Decision trees are something that engineers use a lot of times where we will weight the importance of an item around a decision. So let's say I'm going to make a decision on where I'm going to send my child to daycare. Maybe I'm going to weight cost at 50% because it's very, very, very important and critical to me right now. So it's weighted at 50%. And then Certified teachers are going to be 40% because I want them to get taught while they're there, not just, play without getting hurt, but you want them to actually learn. Another thing you might care about is, friends. Does your child have a friend that lives near them or that they're really excited to see? Having a friend at a childcare facility can make those drop-offs in the morning a lot easier on you. And so that's something you might want to add that and give it a weighted percentage. And then you take that and you compare across multiple options and you say, okay, this one had, more of this one had more of that. And then you weight those and you score them. And then you're going to know pretty clearly which of your options is the best solution based on what you feel is the most important for your child's daycare needs. Sibling discounts. A lot of the daycare providers will have sibling discounts. So ask for that if you have more than one child. Think outside the box. Get creative with your child care solutions. If you don't qualify for any of the grants or any of the sliding scale or any of the subsidies or your local church, if you don't qualify for any of that because you truly make too much money and all of those are income based, maybe you want to consider an au pair or a nanny. One of the things that I would say if you're considering an au pair or a nanny for an affordable daycare option, make sure that he or she is very qualified and capable and trained to watch your child. You just don't want to trust your child to anyone. You definitely aren't looking for the lowest cost option when it comes to your child. Also, look at family. If possible, rely on family members to help with childcare. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, they're very loving and they're very cost effective. And my son used to stay with my great-grandmother and my grandmother quite often. But that's something that, you should consider. One of the things that I've thought about, since I do own my own business and I work from home, is if my son and his girlfriend do decide to get married and have a child, would I move close to them so that I can be free daycare for them and I'll just pick up my grandchild every day, put a at-home education package or purchase an at-home education package for them, and then I'll do their at-home education, I'll do their at-home childcare, and it would be free. And I would love it because I'm so excited and looking forward to being a crazy grandma at some point. Not there yet, but I hope and pray that I'll be blessed with that at some point. In conclusion, let me say, I know paying for childcare is a significant challenge. My heart goes out to any parent today trying to figure this out. Some daycares are $11,000 a year. I know one guy, he and his wife paid $40,000 a year for their single son to go to an elite school program from the time he was 2 years old. And that $40,000 a year, that's a lot of money. That's like sending them to college. And they did this for like a 2-year-old. But he and his wife considered education the top priority. So when they did their decision tree, they weighted education like 90% because that was so important to them. So that's how they made their decision. I just want to say that my heart goes out to you. I know that it's a challenge. You have to plan. You have to be resourceful. Women, by and large, it does fall on us to figure this out. Don't know why dads aren't more involved in this. Occasionally, you will find a dad that is involved and wants to go through the process of evaluating the child care providers. That is great. I hope you have, a dad that's doing that for you and being that support network. If you don't, it's even more important to explore government programs for subsidies. Utilize your employer benefits, consider flexible work arrangements, seek out community resources, budget carefully, negotiate, consider alternate work solutions, and then I know all of you can ensure your child receives quality care without breaking the bank. Finding the right balance between work, childcare, and personal life is key to achieving financial stability, but also peace of mind. Remember, investing in childcare is an investment in your career and in your child's future. So it's very important that you take your time to go through these options, because you've got to find a way for you to be able to make sure you have that peace of mind that your child's well taken care of, and also be able to stay within your budget, because you've got a goal. You're going to be wealthy one day. And for you to get there, you can't pay $40,000 a year on daycare. Again, my heart goes out to you. I understand the struggle. Thomas and I raised 4 kids. They're all young adults now. They're all off the payroll, which is wonderful and great. But I do know what the struggles are, because I've been there, done that before. If there's anything I can do to elaborate on any of these or help you with questions or comments, just leave them down below. Thank you.